Welcome back to Grey Bush Middle East Productions. I'm your host, Grey Bush, and today we're going to be talking about Hezbollah's big speech, October 7th speech, given by the deputy leader, Sheikh Naim Qassem. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyways, it was an October 7th Aqsa Flood Anniversary speech. It's been a 1-year anniversary since their great victory. Or at least they think it's their great victory. I think it's their, the worst move they could have possibly done. But let's just talk about the speech. Okay, so a little bit of background about what's been going on. Qassem gave this 30-minute speech in an undisclosed location. It was kind of dark. There was some dark drapes covering the windows. There was no natural light in the room. It looked pretty unpleasant. To be. He wasn't in a nice office. It didn't evoke a lot of it evoke a lot of confidence. It didn't evoke a lot of confidence or a sense of security. So some more stuff that's happened in the recent past is, well, we know Nasrallah has been killed and he was number 1. We know the number 2 has been killed. I believe it's Hashem Safieddine. And from what I'm reading is the number 3 has also been killed. We also know about the pagers and walkie-talkie attacks, which injured or killed anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000. 3,000 to 4,000 Hezbollah operatives or fighters. Most of which are in the hospital. Maybe a few dozen were killed. But we also know that numerous top-level commanders and leaders in the Hezbollah organization have been eliminated, somewhere in the range of 30 to 40. They seem to be dying. Multiple seem to be being eliminated per day. So Qassem said that this war with Israel is going to be about who cries first. And the overall message, the general message is Hezbollah is not going to cry. So what kind of speech, how would I characterize this speech? I'd call it it was a pep talk, It was a pep talk directed at 2 audiences. The average Lebanese citizen, man, woman, child, and it was also aimed at the Hezbollah militants. And it was meant to assure everybody that Hezbollah is doing just fine, despite suffering what everybody knows to be very severe casualties, setbacks, losses on the battlefield. The message is that Hezbollah is not degraded, that they're fully intact, and that they have lots of really strong, capable fighters left. And even if a lot of the frontline fighters were killed, the second in line are every bit as good. Qassem understands that the Lebanese people and his own organization are probably shaken to the core. He understands that his organization, Hezbollah, is now weaker than it has ever been in the past, 15 years or so. So the message he wants to give is that of confidence and strength. But I think he kind of failed in that message. I got more of a sense of fear and uncertainty, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So let's just get into the nitty-gritty, the details of what Qassem said. I'll try to be in chronological order. So we mentioned it was the first year anniversary of the Aqsa Flood, and he said the Aqsa Flood, October 7th battle, was an enormous victory for them because it marks it's marking a sea of change for the Palestinian people. They're no longer going to be occupied. They're going to be moving towards freedom. They're going to be moving towards their objective of destroying Israel. So it's a great day. He's saying October 7th was a great day, great success. We know that's just not true, though. We could look at Gaza. We can see the number of dead. We could see how Gaza is, totaled. 80% of the buildings are now rocks and rubble and dust. But he wants the people to believe that they're on the right path, which clearly they're not on the right path. I believe they're farther away from having their own state than they ever have been in the past 75 years. I don't think they're doing too well, but that's just my opinion. He said that Israel's war wasn't a response to Al-Aqsa Flood on October 7th, but it was an offensive war. And he said Israel's war has two distinct goals. The first goal is to destroy the resistance in Gaza and Lebanon, and the second main goal is to make sure that they never are able to resist in the future, and are never able again to fight for their rights. He lays out, I guess, a kind of historical argument, even though if it's not true. He said that the alleged crimes committed by Israel are unparalleled in history. He mentions the killing of men, women, and children, and elderly, and medical workers. And that's all true. All those people have died, but none of those people were killed, targeted intentionally. Did Israel know that these people would die as collateral damage from their bombing campaigns? Obviously, they knew there'd be a lot of collateral damage. I don't think Israel had any other way of going about it. Clearly, civilian deaths are not they're actually against Israel's best interests, and actually they favor Hamas. We know Sinwar came out a few days ago and said the more civilians that die, the better for Hamas. So that's probably a reason why there's so many civilians dying. But Qassem wants to, rile the people up, rile up the people of Lebanon, rile up the Hezbollah fighters, and say, this is a historical battle. Israel is the most evil enemy of all time. Specifically, he's saying it's even more evil, even though he's not saying it. What he means is that Israel is more evil than the Nazis. And how do we know he's saying that? Well, that's the message that's going around. Everybody's saying that Jews are the new Nazis, Netanyahu is the new Hitler, and it's all a bunch of baloney. But that's the propaganda they're pitching. And if you're receiving it, good for you. If you're not receiving it, better for you. So yeah, he said that Israelis are the murderers of humanity and of all free people in the world. He wants everybody in the world to feel like a jihadi, and they're being very successful in doing that. World opinion is definitely against Israel, and a lot of people are angry at Israel. But I don't think Israel is very concerned with that right now. I think they're more concerned with their own existence and surviving a huge, powerful enemy on multi fronts, all of whom want to annihilate it. So Israel is looking at this as an existential battle. Anyways, so who does Qassem say to blame? Qassem says the people to blame are obviously the Americans and a big faction of Europe. He said without the Americans, this wouldn't be happening. And that Americans are the real bad guy, and that's not a new story. As we know, Hezbollah is working directly is an arm of Iran. In '85, they published an open letter where they pledged allegiance to Ruhollah Khomeini, who's now dead. It's now Ali Khamenei who's running Iran, but they pledged allegiance to Ruhollah Khomeini. And they said that we're going to fight for you, and you're our number one leader. So we know who the boss is, and Iran's goal is obviously to destroy Israel. So obviously Hezbollah and Hamas's objective is likewise to destroy Israel. So what does Qassem say about Iran specifically? Well, he wants to reassure everybody in Lebanon and Hezbollah that Iran still has their backs. They're still in the game because they haven't done much if you look at it for the past year. They did launch 181 ballistic missiles in the past week, but up until then, Iran really hasn't, put much skin in the game. It's really been Hamas and Hezbollah that have taken the brunt of the fighting. They're suffering the most. But his message is, don't worry, Iran's got our backs, and they're going to do what they're going to do. But we're going to need to lead the way. But don't worry, Iran's ultimately going to protect us. So be reassured, rest assured. He then gives a shout out to Yemen. Says they're doing a great job stopping stopping a lot of Israeli trade. Shooting at ships and whatnot, and firing some missiles into Israel, even though they haven't done too much damage, if any at all. He then framed Israel's message, and he framed it He said Israel's message is wrong. He said Israel's message is that Iran wants to dominate the region and they're doing this for their own interests and to destroy us. But he said, Israel's wrong. Iran is not doing this out of self-interest. Iran is doing this completely selflessly and to protect the Palestinian people. If you buy that story, you should learn a little bit about the Sunni-Shia divide within Islam. It goes back to Muhammad, and they argue over who should be the leader of Islam when Muhammad died. They have different opinions on who it should be. Should it be in the bloodline? Should it be somebody he appointed? I'm not entirely sure. It's about who takes over when Muhammad's gone, and that war between the Shias and Sunnis has continued till today. For example, in Yemen, we see the Houthis killing a lot of Sunnis, Yemeni Muslims, somewhere around 500,000, and Iran is directly responsible for that. We could look at Syria, where Assad is killing countless Sunni Syrian Muslims. I think the number is also in the same ballpark of 500,000, also backed by Iran. We could look at the famine and starvation that is now starting to sweep Yemen. I believe the number is around 25 million Yemenis are now on the brink of starvation. I think upwards of 75 to 100,000 have already died from starvation and other illnesses resulting from Houthi aggression. And what's Iran doing for all those Sunni Muslims in Yemen and Syria? Nothing. He's killing them. He's starving them out. Iran is, he being Khamenei. But the story is they really love the Sunni Palestinians on the other side of the Middle East. They really care about them. So that's the story. Take it for what it is. So then he wants to talk about Hezbollah's capacity. He says that they're fine. Proof of that, we're shooting missiles every day. So don't worry, all of our missile sites are fully manned, fully armed with rockets, and we're ready to shoot them off. And as you can see, they're flying through the air every day. So that's proof, he says, that's proof that Hezbollah hasn't been degraded at all. We know that's also a little bit of a fib. We know that they are substantially degraded. They still have a ton of fight left in, but when you lose all of your leaders, your number one, your number two, your number three, and 30 to 40 top-level commanders, it's going to mess up anybody, right? Any military in the world, any military organization, any terrorist organization, that's going to mess you up. And you couple that with the pager attacks and what that did to morale, knowing that they were infiltrated to such a serious degree that they placed bombs inside of the pagers and walkie-talkies. And not to mention, and a lot of people don't know about this, but those walkie-talkies have been in Hezbollah circulation since about 2015. Yes, 2015. And not only did Israel put bombs in the walkie-talkies, but they put receiving technology in them. They were listening in for the past decade. All those walkie-talkies transmitted the signal directly to Mossad. So they don't talk about that, but that's a big deal. And the intel Israel has now compared to 2006, when they went into Lebanon almost blind, they just flew in when the IDF soldiers, a couple of them were kidnapped. Israel just went in kind of blind and kind of stupidly, and they were punished for it, punished badly. But this is a lot different. So you're going to see how this is going to play out. It's going to be much different than 2006. I guarantee it. But time will tell. So sit back and watch. We're all watching. Qassem also talks about when Israel claimed to have taken out 6,000 missiles, said Israel's lying, said you can never trust Israel, they just lie about everything. So even when they say they're winning, they're lying. When they say they're losing, they're lying. If they say it's 5 people that were killed, it's really 25, so on and so forth. The same old thing. You can't trust those pesky Jews. They're just a bunch of no good pesky little people. He commented on his Israeli public opinion, said it's very poor, and I would say that's not a really good characterization. I wouldn't say Israeli public opinion is is poor or weak. I'd say it's somewhat divided, but not divided in the sense that they want to push Hezbollah, north of the Litani River, so that they could move back into their homes in the north, because there's, anywhere between 60,000 and 100,000 Israelis who are displaced because of Hezbollah's constant missile fire. So they're united. They want to push Hezbollah back, and they're behind Bibi 100% to do that. So then Qassem describes what Israel's objective is, and he claims that Israel's objective is, one, to kill as many civilians as possible and to destroy as much civilian infrastructure as possible. He said the reason Israel is doing this and wants to do this is to drive a wedge between the people and the resistance. I'm sure there's the latter part, I'm sure, is somewhat true. I'm sure they are trying to drive a wedge between the Lebanese people and Hezbollah, because they look at Hezbollah, Israel looks at Hezbollah and the Lebanese people as being two separate entities. Netanyahu has come out and said to the Lebanese people, our war is not with you. So does Israel want to drive a wedge between the Lebanese people and Hezbollah? Well, obviously. I think that's the right strategy. If you look back at history, I can't really think of any war that was won when the people of that nation opposed the war entirely. There might be an example. If there is, leave it in the comments. I'd love to learn. But it makes sense that would be the case, because in wartime, the people, they're driving the economy. They're pumping out the weapons, the food, stuff needed to wage war. And if they're not, gung-ho about the war and they're opposing it, well, just look at Vietnam. It's a prime example, right? People in America were pissed off. They didn't want us to be America to be over there in Vietnam, and that didn't work out well. So Qassem is right. Israel does want to drive a wedge, but I don't believe Israel has ever wanted to target civilians. It doesn't benefit Israel at all. It only helps Hamas and Hezbollah to be able to take a picture of a dead child and put it on social media. It only helps them. It only harms Israel. Their objective is to minimize civilian death. That's pretty obvious if you pay attention. Before they bomb certain places, they drop thousands, tens of thousands of leaflets. They make tens of thousands of phone calls. They send emails and text messages. Hey guys, civilians, leave the neighborhood. We're going to bomb this place. We're going to bomb that place. Please move this way. This area is a little safer over here. Can't guarantee you're going to be all right. This is war. This is war. There's nowhere safe on a battlefield. There's only less dangerous places. And when Israel says, move south, move north, they're not guaranteeing anybody's safety. They're saying these places the safest place to be in the battlefield. And they're not lying. They're trying to save as many civilians' lives as possible. If you just look at the numbers, the civilian to death casualty ratio in Gaza, it's a lot better than the ratio was in lots of other wars, including Iraq, where the ratio was as high as, I believe, 75%. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a bit today. I think I'm getting a bit of a cold. I apologize, so please bear with me. So what else does Qassem say? His message goes out to a lot of the displaced Lebanese, and he says, his sympathies are with the people. He knows how hard it is to be displaced, but he wants all the displaced Lebanese people to know that Hezbollah is standing firmly with them, and he wants to impress upon them the importance that national unity will play going forward in this war. And he wants everybody of all religions, Shias, Sunnis, Druze, Christians, to stick together. And that's really important to them, that people stick together. And that goes to the fact that if the people aren't behind the military, it's a long shot that you're going to win that war. So he's doing what any good spokesman, good leaders would do, trying to keep people unified. How is the war progressing? His story is a little bit different than the truth. He says that they've overcome all Israeli strikes, and again, proof of that is the missiles keep flying. He sent a message directly to Israel saying, Israel, you might have hurt a lot of our fighters. You might have put a lot of them in the hospital with your pager attacks, 3,000 to 4,000. But the alternative fighters are every bit as strong. So it's kind of a threat to Israel. Our second, our B squad is almost as good as our A squad, is what he's saying. He said there's no breakdown in communications. I guess he's referring to obviously addressing the walkie-talkie and pager attacks. But we know that their communications have been messed up just by the fact that there's so many leaders dead, and the morale and the trust within the organization is highly diminished. So, he's painting a little bit of a rosier picture than actually exists, but he's doing his job. He's trying his best. He's trying to hold things together, limit the damage. He even says, we're looking forward to fighting Israel. He says, bring it on, Israel. We're looking forward to meeting you in the battlefield. Come out and let's fight. Let's get it on. He said if Israel is brave enough to do that, there will be a very heavy price for Israel to pay. And if they can, in fact, inflict a heavy price, that Israel is going to get scared and run away, because they won't accept having substantial casualties. They think Israel is not morally prepared to suffer severe casualties in this war. If he's right about that, I'm not so sure. I think Israel's tolerance for casualties is a lot different than what it used to be. I think it's changed a lot. I think now it's looking around, it's seeing it's fighting a war on 7 fronts against people that want to wipe it off the planet. And I think their tolerance for their own civilian casualties is increased. The threshold has been lowered. So I think he's wrong about Israel. Israel's ready to go. They're not shying away from this. If you can't tell, trust me, they're not shying away. Then Qassem gives a shout out to all the martyrs, namely Nasrallah, Soleimani, Shukri, I'm not sure how to say that, Hania, and as he says, all the martyrs who were on the road to Jerusalem. I guess that's part of the mission in wiping Israel off the map. It's a march to Jerusalem. They're gonna march into Jerusalem and plant the flag there. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Let's be realistic, folks. Israel's not going to be defeated in this war. You can't defeat Israel and the United States militarily. It's just not going to happen. The world isn't going to jump in and start a World War III for the Palestinians. As much as the streets of America and Europe and all over the world are crying foul against Israel, the governments of these countries are not going to risk a World War III for the Palestinian people. So Israel is not going to be defeated militarily. It's just a matter of time. If you disagree, I'd love to hear it in the comments, though. We can debate it. I like debating. It's what I do. So then he says, I love everybody in Lebanon. I send my love to the resistance, the Mujahideen, and the Jihadis, and to the entire axis of resistance around the world. Okay, so that's about it. But I didn't mention one thing, and this could be the biggest part of the speech, okay? Brace yourselves. This is really telling. This is important. Qassem, hidden deep in the middle of the speech, and he didn't emphasize it, but he mentioned Lebanese Parliamentary Speaker Nabih Berri. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Nabih Berri. Nabih Berri. Lebanese parliamentary speaker and a strong Hezbollah ally, and he basically gave him the green light to seek a diplomatic solution with Israel. He said, we'd like you to secure a ceasefire. Yeah. So he's talking about fire and brimstone, but at the same time he's telling Nabih Berri to get a ceasefire if possible with the Israelis to end this war without another shot being fired. And he didn't just give him the green light, but in all the other Hezbollah speeches since this began, everything is always hinged on Israel withdrawing from Gaza completely. Gaza peace deal. Any peace with Hezbollah is conditioned on them withdrawing from Gaza and ceasing all hostilities. That wasn't mentioned anywhere in the speech. At least based on the translations that I've read. If anybody speaks Arabic and they heard him say the truce was conditioned on a withdrawal from Gaza. Leave it in the comments, and I'll correct this video. But I didn't see it in the translation. So I don't think he mentioned it. And that's a really big deal. So he's talking about fighting, and they're going to fight, and they're looking forward to the fight. But at the same time, the other side of his mouth, he's saying, hey Nabih, let's make a peace deal with these people. We're getting crushed. We can't maintain these kind of losses. We're going to get knocked right off the board. And then what good are we going to be? They want to stay on the board, so they want peace. So yeah, that's the speech. Another big speech that happened today. So this speech was yesterday, October 7th. This big speech that happened today was a Netanyahu speech, and I believe his speech was directly in response to Qassem's speech. And what was the focus of the gravamen of Netanyahu's speech? It was doing what Qassem mentioned Israel wanted to do in his own speech, which is to drive a wedge between the Lebanese people and Hezbollah. He spent, the entire speech, Netanyahu, pleading with the Lebanese people to stand up and do whatever they could. I don't think he expects them to start fighting, but to stand up and say to Hezbollah, maybe you guys should just go somewhere else. Go leave town. We don't want this war. Netanyahu made it clear his war wasn't with them. He, appealed to family, to children, to peace. He said he wants Israeli children to be able to grow up as neighbors to Lebanese children in peace without any war going on. And that he said that's a real possibility. He said now is a moment where Hezbollah is weak for the Lebanese people to stand up, and maybe this could end without any serious damage to Lebanon. But he didn't hide the fact that if this war did drag on with Hezbollah, that the results to Lebanon would be catastrophic. So he did place a lot of pressure on the Lebanese people, no doubt about it. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for bearing with me. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. If you disagree with what I have to say, let me know what you think. Until then, be safe out there, guys.